Hello, everybody. I'm Bonnie Halper. I write the weekly Startup One Stop newsletter, and we just released our SOS app. I'll actually put the link in the chat at some point. And we host these breakfasts every 2 weeks. I work with founders. I've been writing my newsletter since 2009. I have a reporting background. I like to tell the truth about tech, and that's why I stopped working for other publications. I talk about tech honestly, and I've met a lot of the now household names when they were first starting their companies. So I know of what I speak. I was working in New York and Silicon Valley since the early days of Web 1.0. So as I say, we host these breakfasts every 2 weeks, and we want to thank Joseph for hosting us. Joseph, you want to give us a little bit about your background?
Sure thing. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I'm Joseph Katz, working with Bonnie on these events. I am a startup marketing guy. I help early stage companies go from unknown to well-known. I help them put go-to-market plans in place and start building their traction for when they are going to market. Happy to talk about that anytime anyone wants to learn more.
I mostly work with founders on their pitch decks because not one of them knows how to properly put together a pitch deck. They just don't. So this week, our guest is Arsen Pereymer. I'm sorry, we've known each other for years, and I'm probably butchering your last name, Arsen, but then again, I'm on a first name basis with the world. So Arsen, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and your background, or would you rather go through the room and have everyone introduce themselves first?
Let's start with everyone else just introduce themselves, and then I could tell about myself.
Okay. So, 3525, aka Tracy.
Hi, sorry, Zoom was having problem connecting with my video for some reason, so sorry about that. Nice to see you. Get this down. There we go.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. We try to keep the introductions brief, but I know that you're working in financial services, in which Arsen has a deep background.
Yes, so I founded a company which is taking a pretty humdrum problem in financial services reconciliations. And I used to work in the back office, so I saw this problem and I was studying AI and have developed a product that improves efficiency for reconciliations using AI.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I had my... So Steve, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Steve Schreiber. I'm a business operations expert. 35 years. I've been in the corporate management executive world for a good part of that, but now I kind of assist SMB service companies in rectifying customer impacting operational issues. So I leverage my business ops experience in that way. Happy to meet everybody and get to know them better.
Oh, thank you. Lenny.
Yes, hi. My name is Lenny Finkel. I am in the IT industry. I've been involved with business intelligence and data analytics for over 12 years. And now studying AI, pursuing a certification through MIT. And it's a whole brand new world to me, and I'm excited to explore. And eventually, soon enough, I will be looking for opportunities in the AI space.
As will be many founders and entrepreneurs. Lulu.
Hi everyone, I'm Lulu. I work in the financial service industry as a risk manager covering asset management and capital markets. Personally, I'm also an angel investor, and I'm very interested in entrepreneurship and helping the startups. If I meet the right co-founder one day, maybe I could also work in a startup, and work on some good ideas. So I'm here to learn all about AI. I was trying to leverage the chatgpt, write a blog yesterday. It was a lot of fun.
I wanted to mention that when we used to do the breakfast in person, and I always go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves and talk about what they're working on. And we had two people in the room who didn't even know each other, who were working on the exact same project, same sort of startup. And I said, you two should talk to each other. And they did, and they ended up founding a company together. And they're the ones who developed the SOS app, which I will put in the chat later. Matt.
Matt Wampler, founder over at ClearCogs, ex-restaurant guy turned tech. We're building out the AI ops manager for the restaurant industry. So predictive forecasting and all that stuff.
Oh, thank you. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Fearman. I'm a graphic designer and I work mostly with startups and tech.
Oh, good for you. So I'm curious, show of hands, how many people have actually used ChatGPT? Oh, okay. Arsen, I didn't notice if your hand was up. So Arsen, our guest today is Arsen, who's going to introduce himself, and he has a deep background in AI. We won't talk about the crypto today, but Arsen, tell us about
Great.
yourself.
Well,
yes.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Really honored to be here. Yeah, so really quickly about my background, really quick, try to keep it less than a minute. You know, I've been a serial entrepreneur for quite a while, started lots of different companies. Some were extremely successful. Some were amazing learning experiences. Notice I didn't use the word failure or anything of that nature because I hate using that word. Nothing is a failure, right? It's a very, very bad word to go and use. And anything we go through in life should always be looked at as a learning experience and a lesson to move forward. So, you know, I have lots of different startups and different type of spaces. Everything all started out with web, obviously. Then, you know, past several years been very, very heavy into fintech, and more particular with crypto. Got into crypto very, very early. I was very fortunate, got into it 2012, and in 2017 saw an amazing opportunity with altcoins, and we developed trading algorithms, which our own family office was trading in a very large sum. So past several years, been really, really heavy, much more into AI, and even more so the past few months for everything which has been released. Right now, working on, we put together an amazing team of engineers and marketers over the past probably maybe 3-4 months. We're working on a fascinating project, which will hopefully be released soon in the AI space. And yeah, that's basically a quick background about myself. And tell me, Bonnie, would you like to start getting straight into, you know, the presentations, AI and everything of that nature? I think you're on mute, Bonnie.
I have a little cold and I keep talking, so I like to mute. Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Okay. So give me a quick second. Let me just make sure to share my screen and for everyone to be able to see it. That'll be really cool. And here we are. I should share my screen right now. Let's view in full screen. Okie dokie, awesome. I hope everyone sees my screen very well.
Yes.
You're good.
Yes.
You're good.
Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead. Just, you know, I put together a few quick slides, you know, just to show a little bit of the visuals of what we're going to go ahead and talk about. Specifically, I want to go ahead and talk about, you know, driving business growth and innovation to the next level using AI. So let's go straight to it right now. So AI is really just a concept and a technology. Many people think that, oh, wow, ChatGPT came out and this is an awesome tool. Yes, it is. It's an awesome tool, but I like to go and look at it as just one use case of AI. The example which I like to go ahead and give is cryptocurrency. All right. Cryptocurrency is just a use case of blockchain. It's not blockchain. It's just one use case of it. So that's what ChatGPT is as well. Just one use case of AI, which clearly it's an amazing use case of it. In fact, OpenAI.com themselves say it's a research project, right? If you look on their site, that's exactly what they're doing. That means the technology is so much more. That's something really, really important to understand. And fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of people over the past few months have been using ChatGPT and AI synonymously, saying, oh, it's the same exact thing, but it's not. That's important to really understand. So AI works on the principle of data in, data out. What do I mean by that? And the better you train the system, that's the training and improving it. the better the output it's going to go ahead and be. In fact, there's a really nice trick not many people know about ChatGPT. When you ask it a question in the same chat window and you continue that dialogue, they call it a dialogue, right? Like, for example, let's say you'll ask it a question, give me the top 5 uses of AI. All right. And it gives you the top 5 uses. And then you can go and follow up with that question. You could say, okay, specifically use number 2, expand upon it further. And if you continue feeding it and going back and forth, it's really fascinating. You're actually training the AI in your specific case to give you better answers. So that's some of the tricks or what to go ahead and use. So that's what I'm saying. It's data in, data out, right? In fact, there's a really interesting principle in computer science called the better, the more you feed the system with good data, that's the data which you're going to go and get out. That's why it's so important to really formulate your questions really, really well. Okay, AI is really it's an evolutional technology, meaning as you're continuing to train it, as you're continuing to expand upon it, and as it has more data coming in, all right, it's going to go and produce much better results. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind why it's a more of a concept in the technology. So AI actually can actually be applied to multiple industries, right? And multiple facets as well. And some of the facets it can go and be applied to. It could optimize your operations, which we'll talk about shortly, to make things much more streamlined. It could do a lot of predictive analytics, like where you can go and feed it data, and then it could go and predict and forecast future results. Why can it do that very, very well? Well, it's a very simple reason. You're providing it data, you're providing it history, and based on the data and the history, it can figure out and predict based on a trend or based on any specific item what to go to. Like, for example, weather. All right, you can go and feed it a lot of weather information, historical weather information, and even for example, you could go ahead and feed it. All right, right now we are in New York, okay, but in Pennsylvania it's raining. All right, and the rain is going ahead, moving toward New York. Well, it can go ahead and predict when the rain will arrive there. Why? Because it's going to go and use math to go ahead and do that. Innovation. It's actually a great tool and technology to use for innovation, to come up with new ideas, new features. Actually, it's very fascinating. I myself, a lot of times, will go ahead and say, you know what, give me the top 5 ideas for apps to go ahead and create. The reason why, by the way, I mentioned apps, I forgot to mention it, but my background is apps, mobile apps. We've developed a lot of them. So I always try to come up with ideas for that. It's a fascinating thing. Now, is it going to go and give you a direct idea? Probably not, but it's going to go and help you with the research and coming up with the legwork much faster. Okay. Data analysis, right? You can go and feed it lots of data. Like, for example, the other day, I fed it a lot of spreadsheet data. All right. And I connected to OpenAI, fed it a whole entire large spreadsheet, and it was able to go and analyze the data for me and output amazing results, right? Manufacturing and industrial processing. You can go ahead, do lots of really cool things to go and streamline how you go and manufacture products, all right? Which is really, really cool. Cybersecurity, well, like, for example, fraud detection, all right? And all these things we actually are already applied in our daily lives, believe it or not, right? Like, for example, anyone who uses, the cell phone, right? Spam calls, a lot of times that's blocked, right? How do you think that's blocked? It's using AI to go ahead and block that type of stuff. So there's fascinating things which can be used with that. That's why it's important to understand that AI can be applied to many, many things, not just a beautiful chat system, which we are very familiar with over the past few months. So automation of repetitive tasks, okay? So, there's a lot of things which we go in and do as business owners and founders where, our time is very, very valuable. and they're very repetitive type of things which we go ahead and do. So there are things which you can go ahead and do to train the AI to make things much more efficient for you and free up your time to do much more valuable work. Some quick examples is faster data collection and analysis. You can go ahead, use AI to go ahead and say, okay, you know what, get this type of data from the web and go ahead and analyze it for me, and analyze it by giving me back certain type of results. Of course, I'm being very vague purposely, just to go and get your minds working in what you can go and use this for. Content automation, right? I mean, this is actually fascinating to go ahead and do, to use it for your marketing purposes, to go ahead and say, you know what, create me 5 Instagram captions, right, about stock investing as an example, right? And it's going to go ahead and do that, and that's really cool because it's going to go ahead and help you do things much more efficiently on that level. Scheduling, planning, dispatching tasks. I mean, we've all used well, I'm sure we've all used like things like Calendly and all those different type of tools. Those are amazing tools because that could streamline your planning with calendars and things of that nature. Proactive maintenance, right? Like for example, if you have a factory and in a factory, you want to go and make sure that certain tools over there are working as they're supposed to be working. So this can constantly proactively look at the specific tool or device, see if it's working properly. If it's not, it'll go ahead, do a certain task to go to do that. That avoids actually having people doing. And fraud detection and prevention, like we just went ahead, discussed with cyber security. So all this really results in reducing labor, okay, and improving your accuracy and consistency with doing things much more better. Okay, that's the whole concept. So, these are some of the examples of repetitive tasks over here. We could be here for like hours just discussing this concept. Like I always said, data entry and data cleanup, right? How many times do we have spreadsheets which just really need a lot of cleaned up? Now, of course, yes, you can go ahead and hire somebody offshore to go ahead and clean it up for you. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to go ahead and start building, AI to go ahead and do that work for you, and then, charging you their rates, right? Email management, just go ahead, automatically replying to different type of emails based on certain keywords, right? That's all about training, right? You go ahead, you train the AI to say when certain type of keywords in the email come up, this is the type of response you go ahead and do. Obviously, I'm simplifying it, but the concept is there. Invoice processing, same thing. You go ahead where when an invoice comes in, you immediately go ahead, get it paid based on certain rules, right? Kind of, if anyone uses QuickBooks, that's kind of like they do those type of concepts. That's some sort of concept of AI already being used. And of course, social media management. There's just so much to talk about there. Creating content for your social media posts, automatically posting them and scheduling the posts and things of that nature. We're going to have a Q&A after this, right? So we're almost done with the slides. I just want to go and get all this out. So if you do have any questions, please write them down, and during the Q&A, we'll talk about it. So in predictive analytics, this is something which is really, really amazing to go and use AI for, because predictive analytics is all about data. Right. So the more data you provided, the more efficient things are going to go ahead and be, such as efficient data processing. You can go ahead, have the AI process the data at a remarkably fast speed. What would normally take a human hours to go and do, AI can do in a matter of seconds or minutes, depending on the data. It can make predictive predictions on future events based on historical and based on trend type of data. Improve your forecasting accuracy, identify patterns and trends, build predictive models. That's actually really, really cool to go ahead and do for those in the fintech type of world, to go ahead and kind of predict where the profits can go ahead and be based on certain type of rules. Notice I'm using the word rules a lot because AI uses the concept of rules and logic very, very intensely. So that's why it's important to go ahead, understand those concepts. Yeah, so these are some of the things which you could do with predictive analytics.
You're talking
cus-
about just AI in general, not necessarily ChatGPT.
Yes, correct. Yes. Talking about AI in general, and then we could go ahead and have Q&A about specific type of things, how you can go and use it. Make sense? Awesome. So customer service and personalization, again, same thing. You can go and free up your human service people to focus more on complex issues, right? If you really think about it, if you have a customer service department, most of their tasks are really just answering FAQs, or even things like, hey, how do I get a refund, or things of that nature. Those things you could not only make things so much easier and more efficient, but you could actually go ahead and have the AI do that automatically. And it's actually interesting. Anytime you use like the Amazon customer service, it's fascinating because a lot of times you chat with the bot and you get the response very quickly, and it does everything for you, right? And sometimes you think, wow, is this a human or not? And they just have a really complex AI build. And that was already around for years, before the ChatGPT got released. You could automate the standard replies, of course, and even personalized replies. I mean, a lot of times you can go and train the AI where, based on certain keywords, respond in a certain way, and it's going to be a personalized response. And I'm not referring to just say hello name, right? But more actually, customized responses you can go ahead and do. Marketing. This is what I enjoy very much. A lot using ChatGPT for. You can go and create the social content, the ad content, the strategy plans, create presentations for the base content, all these wonderful things you can go ahead and use marketing tasks for with AI. It's really fascinating. Remember that one of the secrets is the training. The better you train the system, the more efficient it's going to go ahead release tasks to you. And a lot of people are actually very, very much afraid, oh my gosh, AI is going to go and take away my job, or things of that nature. I think people should look at it a little bit differently, that it's not going to actually take away the job, it's going to probably improve the jobs, right? So the individual can do things much more efficiently. And here are just some examples. Content creators, right? So, content creators are probably very scared now, saying, oh my gosh, people could be using this ChatGPT to create social media content. Well, I think quite the opposite, right? Yes, people are going to be using it to create the content, but instead use the AI to do the legworks for research, ideas, and concepts, right? And then based on that, the content creator can go ahead and modify things accordingly. So that's just the legwork to go ahead and do. Customer service agents, there's a lot much more complex issues they can go in and deal with. All right. So have the AI do the simple stuff for them first. Marketing managers, they can go ahead and really improve their ROI by going ahead, figuring out the right metrics to go and get improved upon, right? Again, doing the legwork. Product managers, they can go and use AI to come up with more ideas for features, right? Say, you can go on ChatGPT and say, give me 5 great ideas for a specific product. You got to go and give it the details. So these are just some examples how things can really be improved upon for people with jobs which they're afraid that could be taken away from. So, these are some of the departments which can really go ahead benefit from AI directly. All right. The sales and marketing, we already gave lots of examples. Customer service, human resources, finance and accounting, supply chain and logistics. Just some of the departments, just to think about how to optimize, things with AI. And then just, these are just some of the next things, like what are you going to go ahead and do to use AI in your company? And decision-making, automation, or natural language processing. Those are the 3 main areas to go ahead and think about. So yeah, that's it. I hope this was, kind of informative. I know I tried to pack a lot of things all in one, and I'd love to go for some questions if you guys have.
I'd love to ask a quick question, if I may.
Please.
Introduce yourself too.
Hey, Bonnie, good to
Hey.
hear your voice. Hey, everyone, my name is Arsen, like Argentina without the Tina, founder at HelloWolfie.com. We like to say it's smart marketing for underdogs or small business owners. So my question is around. So we've been saying for several years that ChatGPT and a lot of the AI technologies, and Google's working on their own versions, you know, they will cause the problem of plagiarism and copyright and things of that nature. And so 2 years ago, Google actually came up with an official article that said, if we detect any AI generated content, we will actually ding you in the search results. And that set the whole industry, you know, on its toes in terms of what are we going to do if we're going to use if we're going to use GPT-2 actually at that point. So we actually filed a patent around autocomplete and technology to create content, but we said we will never let any content go out the door as exactly the way it was generated. We want the user, the human being, to search out a word, add an emoji, add a hashtag, some level of human involvement. Now, obviously, ChatGPT is out and people are just copy and pasting it everywhere in everything, in legal documents and social media posts or whatnot. I guess my question to you is, at what point should a generated piece of content be allowed to go out into the internet, or versus how much scrutiny should be placed on that AI generated content so that some level of human involvement is there? Otherwise, are we just creating AI generated content that's responding to AI generated content, which is responding to AI generated content, and the humans are no longer needed at all? So I guess my question to you is, what level of scrutiny and compliance should there be before something is just put out into the world?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And this is a whole topic in itself. And I very much agree with you. I think this is this will potentially cause a lot of harm, a lot of possible plagiarism, and a lot of content created, which is all AI based. And it could be good, but it could be really, really bad as well. And I think, to answer your question, I think it's very, very important as a disclaimer. Anyone who does use these AI tools, yes, the content can be amazing. Like you mentioned, for example, legal, right? A lot of people in the legal world are saying, oh, whatever, I need to create a privacy policy, right? So they go to ChatGPT, say, hey, create me a standard privacy policy about a website. And it creates it, and what they do, they go ahead, copy and paste, or they can even be smarter. They say, create that for me, and then output it in HTML. Now they really don't have to do anything, right? Because now they just save the HTML file, upload it, and they're in business. Not a good idea to do, right? Why is that not a good idea? Because clearly, you still need that human interaction. So I think what's going to probably happen, again, not predicting the future, but I think what's going to probably happen, there's going to be a lot of these quote, maybe let's give it a term right now, maybe an AI compliance department. Maybe we could go ahead and call that, where you could have these marketing folks use AI to generate the initial base content, but then have somebody in compliance to like kind of reword things a little bit and have that interaction. I would almost maybe say it would be like almost an 80-20 rule. Have the AI create 80% of the content for you, and 20% a human will go and change things around. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, I guess great minds think alike. The technology that we have received patents on, we to repurpose it and say exactly the same thing. If something comes out, of the content generation tool, then the compliance engine will kick in and say, oh, this is 100% similar to what ChatGPT created. Bonnie, would you mind switching 5 words? We recommend these ones, and that'll be considered human involvement. Otherwise, this content cannot go out to your blog or to your social media platform or whatever that may be. But yeah, that's exactly what we're saying, and I appreciate that. I'd love to connect with you another time, buy you coffee. I think there's definitely a lot of synergies here. We've been backed by Tim Draper and Peter Thiel, Scott Venture, and Bonnie's an advisor as well. So it'd be an honor to take you out for coffee.
Awesome. Sounds good. Definitely ping me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to chat with you. But I very much agree with you. And I probably should have started this off as a disclaimer that even though, AI can produce amazing results, it's really best not to go and just do a copy and paste, which the majority of people are going to go there and do, but then it's no original content there, and it's going to be way too much plagiarism. It's going to cause a lot of problems, I think. But this is the internet. That's what happens.
Thank you again.
There's a lot of plagiarism going on. Somebody was noting how brilliant ChatGPT was, and it generated this tweet for me. I asked, what's it like building a startup? And it was like, and ChatGPT said, it's like building a plane on the way down. That's not original. That is plagiarism. I know somebody who says that all the time. And
The issue of plagiarism is becoming a bigger problem in the education space. I spent a good part of my career in education, and I have a friend who's now focused on academic integrity as it relates to some of these issues.
Yeah, so I got a totally different viewpoint on that. Like, I'm like severely dyslexic, horrible writer, right? And in some ways, the technical skills of writing is what it's doing. It's not really creating any ideas, right? It's regurgitating information, but it's written well. So, it just flips it to, it's not about, the facts, it's about coming up with ideas, right? Like, how do these different concepts work together, right? How can you generate this? And I do totally get the plagiarism side of things, but at the same time, I think it just optimizes for a different skill set.
Yeah, Arsen, this is Lenny. I have a question. You mentioned about training. The more data you feed AI, the better trained the system, so to speak, becomes. Is it about all about pattern? Is it about when you refer to training? Is it about AI? Being trained by the pattern of the data, and that's what training is all about. The more data, the more patterns of data that AI is trained by.
Yeah, so it all depends on the specific algorithm of the AI, which we, each system is different, okay? But what I'm really more referring to about the data in and data out is providing it the information to be able to process it. All right. So take for example, let's say you want to go ahead and build some sort of code, build a coding system to build some sort of app. The more information you give it of how to go ahead and build, let's actually give a better example. Privacy policy. All right. So let's say you want to go and build a privacy policy. Instead of saying, hey, build me a privacy policy for the website, how about instead you do something the following: build me a privacy policy for the website, and it outputs. Then you give it the next piece of information, say, modify the privacy policy to support fintech related to stock trading. Now, all of a sudden, the privacy policy will be modified even better. Now you look at that result and you say, you know what, this is good. Now, please add the following more information and put it into legal terms. So you see what I did? I went through a whole entire dialogue by providing it much more data, much more information for it to go ahead and process. And what is AI going to go ahead and do? It's going to go ahead and take that information which I've provided it and probably go somewhere on the internet or somewhere through its terabytes of data to try to find the right legal terms. Now that is very valuable use of the AI, where you're providing it the information, and yes, you yourself can go ahead and write that wonderful, clause in the privacy policy, but it's going to go and probably take you hours of research to find those proper legal terms. Here, the AI will go ahead and do that for you. That's essentially what I mean by good data in and good data out.
Right. I see. I understand. Thank you. I should have qualified. My question is more specifically pertains to predictive modeling, predictive analytics, right? So is it essentially about the patterns of data? That's, the optimum way or the best way that you're training the model, right? Is that the more data there is, the more pattern it gets to study and thereby trained by that the patterns of data.
Yes, correct. Correct.
Okay.
So if you can go ahead, you know, as you're feeding it the information, almost like, you know, go ahead and give it the pattern or the example. Maybe another way of going and looking at it, like almost like giving it some sort of like a formula as well, right? So if you give it a formula and you know, like in grade school, when we all went through things, they always taught us, okay, what's going to be the next color over here based on this pattern. So the more you feed it that type of pattern, type of methodology, the better it's going to go and be able to go and learn from it as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. All right, thank you.
I have a question. Sorry, before the question, I want to make a comment. Yesterday, I was playing with the chatgpt. I asked a question about the risk management, how to detect mistakes by AI and also how to detect mistakes in detecting AI issues. So clearly, the chatgpt is well aware of its shortcomings and it suggests like a human intervention, monitoring or review of the algorithm and the input of data and all those. So I'm optimistic that in the future, as long as people understand there are limitations of that, people will put in place, like all the auditing and the review in place. My question is more about what are the leading companies or tools that you are aware of that can help individuals or help the small business to leverage AI? I would imagine like not all the individual small business have the capability or money to hire a whole engineer team to write the AI from scratch, right? There must be some AI as a service company already offer those tools that we can easily just incorporate into our small business or into our individual needs. And just wondering, are you aware of any of those leading companies that we can start using their service?
Good question. So if I were to relay back the question, you're asking, is there existing almost out of the box type of solutions which handle a lot of the things which we spoke about? And I think the answer to that is yes. It all depends on the specific industry and department. Like, for example, customer service. I know there's just lots of tools out there. I don't like mentioning names, just do a Google search on it, because if I mention names, it's gonna be like I'm endorsing it. So just, you know, you could do a lot of Google searches saying like a chat bot for customer service. There's plenty of tools out there which go ahead, integrate with your social channels or integrate with your Zendesk, for example, if you're using Zendesk as a customer service tool, and it handles the automation for you. So yes, I'm sure there's lots of out of the box type of tools, and then I think there's going to be a lot more created. In fact, this is, by the way, a great business idea too, to create these solutions, out of the box solutions as well.
Thank you.
You know, I noticed Stack Overflow announced a couple of weeks ago that it would not allow any ChatGPT answers because they found that they were mostly wrong.
Interesting.
I wondered if, and also, you know, we just had all those rainstorms in California. They're still ongoing, and all the forecasters said they didn't see it coming. I mean, where's AI? I mean, they're not using AI.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Really quickly, you mentioned about the coding part.
Yes.
One of the ways which is pretty valuable to go and use the coding. Now, I myself, I've actually been playing around a lot with this over the past few days. So what I went ahead and did is I copied a piece of code to ChatGPT, and I told it, you know what, can you please add comments to the code? And it did an amazing job, right? Added. So these are some of the things you could also go ahead and do to, what did we say? Streamline the information. Now, of course, you can go and ask your engineer to go there and do that, right? And we always go ahead and ask our engineers, hey, go ahead and, you know, make sure you comment the code really well, because, you know, 6 months from now, you're going to forget what you wrote and all that type of stuff, right? But here we are. I said, let me go ahead and do this like really quick thing. Instead of asking the engineer to go there and do it, where the engineer's time is much more valuable to come up with the code, the original code to write it. So go ahead, ChatGPT or AI system write the comments for the code, and actually did an amazing job.
I have a question. What do you think about the future of AI and graphics? I mean, AI already could create entire websites for people. They're not good yet. Like, I've looked at them and they're weird. They have a weird vibe. But they won't be for long, right? They'll be good in the next year. What do you think about the future of that?
Yeah, awesome question. Because image manipulation, it could do really, really well. There's a whole bunch of apps. In fact, actually, the OpenAI has a process there, part of the AI where you feed it kind of like image information. You say, create me an image. I'm just going to go and give it a silly example, right? A panda, right? I'm just mentioning panda because my daughter likes pandas, right? So create me a panda, right? Which has big ears, okay? And they'll output a really, really well image designed, okay? So, I see that getting much more complex and sophisticated where you'll be able to go and tell the AI, build me a design of a website, which will have the following navigation, and the website will be about fintech, for example, and specifically stock trading. All right, make sure you pick the right stock photos to apply to and stuff like that, right? And the call to action should be request consultation. All right. Notice what I went ahead and did. I fed as much requirements as I can. I'm assuming you're referring to coming from a graphic designer point of view. So from a graphic designer point of view, a lot of times probably when you sit with your clients, you ask them, okay, give me some ideas, some inspiration of what you want the design to go ahead and be. Well, now think of it from the AI perspective, right? To go ahead and give the AI that information. Now, how could you, as a graphic designer, use AI to help you? Well, why not almost like take the information which your client gives you, feed it to AI, and it'll at least give you some inspiration. But the creativity, that's something, there's no way, at least right now, who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? That the AI can be as creative as a human, right? Okay. And that's where I think is so key. We're having a long conversation with my engineers a few days ago, where we were talking about, wow, well, this is great that ChatGPT can write code, even though it's not the best code, but it doesn't matter, right? It's great that it can go there and do that. But the architecture and the engineering behind it, that AI can't do yet, right? Because that requires creativity. And that's something really, really important, to keep in mind that, we as humans, right, we could process information, but there's something which the computer does not have yet. Maybe it does, we just don't know about it yet, the creativity. And that's something which is really valuable, which we as humans provide.
Thank you.
You spoke a little bit about the plagiarism issues, the garbage in, garbage out. What are some of the other potential pitfalls of AI? Machines aren't going to take over the world anytime soon, but what should we be thinking about, aware of?
Yeah, I think misinformation, right? I think, and I believe, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Hello Wolfie, right?
No, that was Joseph. Sorry.
No, Joseph. But Hello Wolfie mentioned something really interesting, right? About
Arsen.
people posting information from AI, and then others going ahead looking at it as facts, right? Right. That's going to be a huge problem. I think that's going to be a very, very big problem, because people are going to go ahead, start creating blogs, and those blogs are going to go ahead, get indexed by the search engines, right? And then consumers are going to be reading that, and they're going to say, oh, that's good information. You know how the big problem we have right now, fake news, right? Well, we may have another big problem getting brewed right now called fake information, fake content.
It's like Wikipedia, right? It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
In fact, Ben from Stratechery did an early AI piece, and he was asking AI to talk about the battle between two countries. And it gave him a 1,500 word essay, but the battle had never taken place. It was totally fictitious. It never happened. But
so now imagine somebody taking that and creating a blog post out of it, right? And then posting it on their Facebook, and then all of a sudden it gets viral, right? And all of a sudden you have these news outlets writing about, oh my gosh, look at this war or whatever which happened. And then somebody's going to open up their mind and say, well, hold on a second, that never really happened. Where's the source of that information? Right?
So what you're saying is, if it's on the internet, it's not necessarily true.
Oh, come on, I can't believe that.
Arsen, another question here, Lenny. This is Lenny. There's a famous phrase coined by some statistician, I forget the name, that all models are wrong, only some are useful, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about self-driven cars that are powered by AI, right? It's all AI, or predictive modeling certainly is all based on statistics. How can that, what do you think of the future or even the present of self-driven cars? Can they be so reliable to be put on the road? And I guess we can extend it to other industries, other functions, so to speak. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, coming from, experience with self-driving, because I have a self-driving car, I personally love it. But at the same time, despite me being a very big advocate of AI and loving it and kind of trusting it, I still honestly am always very scared when the car drives itself, right? More particular in the city. And I think one of the reasons is there's certain things which a human can identify much better than an AI at this point. All right. For example, just a for example, let's say, you are driving and then it hits a bump of some sort. Can the human may be able to go and interact much quicker and better for it. So I think there's still a long way to go on it, but at the same time, just not to contradict, I think the self-driving cars have really advanced amazingly, right? With it, yes.
So I hear, but my point is, specifically about that it's impossible for any predictive model to be almost impossible 100% correct. That's why I brought up this phrase, whoever coined it, right? So how can you trust a self-driven car, if it's not 100% accurate?
Well,
Precise,
then,
in terms of precision. There's no 100% precision of it.
Just people are a lot less accurate.
Yeah, I was about to say that too, because it's people, at least with the AI and the computer, it could process the data very quickly, right? But I mean, are some humans very accurate as well? I don't know. That's something a good question to delve on.
I looked into driving statistics for something I was working on, the crash statistics from the DTHSA or something. And in 50% of head-on crashes, people never hit the brakes. So we're not that good at driving.
Well, just to say even further on that, think about it. As an individual, we have a lot of things on our mind, even when we're driving, right? As a human, as a person, and like your example about hitting the brakes in time, AI would go ahead. When AI is not thinking about, for example, oh my gosh, I got to pick up my child, right? From school soon, right? Or oh my gosh, I got to make a presentation about AI, right? Tomorrow morning, right? Is not thinking about that when driving. AI is just thinking about one thing, right? how can I go and get from point A to point B in the safest and most efficient way? That's its only job, okay, to go to. So I think the fact that AI does not have that emotions and does not have the other things to do, other tasks, that's probably what makes it much more valuable in certain cases.
Oh, Tracy has her hand raised. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I wanted to ask, and this is sort of related to the previous question around 100% accuracy. And I'm in the finance space, but really this applies to any application of AI. Is the use of benchmarks, and when by benchmark I don't necessarily mean speed, I mean like accuracy and recall, precision and recall, right? The classic machine learning metrics. There just doesn't seem to be much, and shockingly somewhat, that doesn't really exist in the finance industry. And I wonder what Arsen's view of that is about how that can actually encourage adoption of AIs, that people will actually have reliable benchmarks. And for example, they could be applied to self-driving cars. What would you think about the development of those as we see AI mature?
So I'm trying to understand your question. Can you simplify a little bit for me?
Do you think that there is a need for benchmarks, like published benchmarks on various software, like in terms of precision and recall, like or accuracy, so that people can actually evaluate this system? So we all know ChatGPT sounds very authoritative, but it's often wrong. So would it be useful to have some kind of, whether it's government or just some kind of university published benchmarks on various systems?
That's an idea. That's actually a really, really good idea. It's almost like what's it called, like an Edmunds or something like that, like what they have for cars, right?
Yes.
Or something of that nature. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. The only thing is, I think right now there's very few chat systems out there and AI systems out there. So I think eventually probably it would make sense to have some sort of benchmarks to go ahead and do that, where people can go and say, all right, how accurate is this particular system, AI system, and some sort of maybe voting and maybe a review system and stuff of that nature. Yeah, I think that would make sense. Almost like a Google reviews, right?
Yes.
For AI systems, right?
Exactly. And like you mentioned something like anti-money laundering or fraud detection, there's all these systems out there. How on earth do people evaluate them without doing very expensive POCs? There doesn't seem to be anything published currently.
I think it's just really so new right now.
I would interject that the ChatGPT thing, probably everyone has a little bit of a, it coming up with wrong facts, right? Well, the customer facing ones like kind of tuned to be creative and come up with stuff. I mean, these are all controls. You can make it be totally factual and only give you things that it actually knows the answer to.
Well, that would be useful.
Comes down to data in. Yeah.
You could set a high setting. I only want true stuff, please. I don't want the made up stuff. But yeah, it's just I'm trying to set that up as part of the finance space, and it's just happening now, and it seems like it's well overdue, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. It all comes out to providing it, the right data, but also, like I said, it's so important to understand this concept that it should not be done as a pure copy and paste, and that's where I think a lot of people are going overboard with this. Where I think the reason why people are going overboard with this is my hunch, is that the reply from the AI, the natural language is so amazing that it looks so authentic. And I think when people look at it, they say, wow, this is like really authentic. Like back to the example of a privacy policy, you ask it to write you a privacy policy, it's going to write it and it's going to look so authentic. Not only that, it's going to look really well formatted. So as an individual, you look and say like, yeah, this looks amazing. Why should I pay somebody a few $100 to go and do it when I can go in and do this for free? And it looks like exactly the same thing, right?
Yep.
And that's why I think people are going ahead and say, let me just do a copy and paste and that's it. And then repercussions happen later on. And that's kind of like what I'm personally like really scared may start happening in the next few months, that we could have a lot of this backfire, that people can be creating these privacy policies, content, and things of that nature, which can really backfire, which is a really big challenge. I think we may see in the road ahead.
Well, the other thing is representation as well. There was one situation where an author copyrighted a comic book, and the trademark office gave it as a copyright and then revoked it because it was a non-human entity that created it. So when I was thinking, and this happened just a few days ago, I believe, a few weeks ago. And so it made me think, what if there was a mechanic, that needed help on the field and had a question to ask, right? And he or she, asked, hey, does this, pipe go here or there? And the whatever the version is, gave it the response, showed it the diagram, and he did it or she did it, but it was wrong. Who's responsible? Like, which end do you take the AI to court? And so it's very interesting how the government is way behind right now in terms of recognizing entities, artificial entities, as liable or not, and how we address that. Bill Gates himself said, I think it was Bill Gates or Elon Musk, he said, for every time an artificial intelligence or a robot takes over a job or replaces a human being, they have to pay a robot tax. So that's such an interesting argument on all sides.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I think really all it comes down to that AI should be a tool, not the end all, right? And I think this is where people are really messing up on it. And it's probably just because it's so early on. Maybe that's why. I think creating these compliance type of systems and things of that nature will have to happen eventually.
I think we have some.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, if anyone's a Star Trek fan, you've seen some of this conversation happen with Data, and the whole idea of Data, the android existing in his rights and the actions he takes. It's such a fascinating thing that Star Trek is actually becoming a reality, 100%.
Oh yeah, pretty interesting for sure. One of the things which I'm hoping is people are not going to be using stuff like this for is medical stuff. That's what I'm really hoping is not going to happen, right? Where I really hope, like people are not going to go and start saying, hey, I have a stomach ache, what should I do, right? Because then already you're playing with people's lives and everything. And I'm really hoping that a lot of these AI systems will kind of like almost be very proactive. And if a medical question is asked, or even honestly, even a financial question, it should just reply, I'm not giving you that answer. I can't give you that answer. Yes, is point blank, not even attempting to answer it. Because there's certain things, we can't, we as a society can't afford to mess up on.
It'll be more scary if doctors start using it for that.
Yeah. On that, I have two comments. I think for the doctor side, there are AI improving the images. For example, if you take a CT, right, and then some AI algorithm can help the doctor to identify issues. I don't think the AI make a final conclusion. It's not more about helping the doctor to better identify if there's any issue from that image. So I think that the doctor will still be the final one who make a conclusion about the situation of the patient. And the other thing is, on the financial side, interesting, I was asking ChatGPT about, okay, can you please tell me what's the best investment I can do in fintech, blah, blah. And the ChatGPT was like, I'm sorry, I cannot make this decision, blah, blah, blah. I can only provide you some, facts, but I'm not good at investment decision making, blah. So I think so far, it knows about its limitation there, but I don't know. In general, I feel like a human, we're very worried about this in a way that all the base level jobs probably will be replaced by AI. Imagine in history, like some of the basic research jobs or data entry jobs, or those were performing those jobs in the past. But going forward, AI can be quick, it can be very fast to generate some basic content, as we were all discussing just now. So I think all of us need to upskill to be more about like critical thinking, ask the right question, so that we're on the creative side rather than doing all those repetitive basic work. That's my understanding.
Yeah, it all comes down to just using it as a tool, and that's it. Like giving your example of the medical. Yeah, I mean, going actually, I was watching this show the other day, New Amsterdam, right? And I saw over there, that's what did they have? Dawn over there, something like that, the Dawn AI. And I looked at it, go, oh, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, it also showed that it had inappropriate diagnostics as well. All right. So that's why it's so important to only use it as a tool to help you, which is about data processing very, very quickly and efficiently. So yeah, and yeah, I agree. You know, I think, you know, so ChatGPT, if you play around with it and ask it, hey, what do you think of this stock and that stock? It avoids answering that. So what I was referring to about the health and medical stuff is I was referring to consumers asking ChatGPT and using it as a doctor. All right. I really hope that's not going to be happening, because that's you know, people can really be taking that advice literally and cause problems.
That's been a problem with WebMD as well. Before,
Yeah. I didn't want to say it. You said it. Good.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Good. I'm happy you said it.
And I wouldn't trust it. I mean, I hope they don't incorporate it into medical advice, because as a writer, as a creative writer, and I've seen articles and things that ChatGPT has generated, and I'm a stickler for grammar. Its grammar is atrocious, because again, it's scraping the internet, and most people have atrocious grammar, especially when it comes to pronouns. But anyway.
I wanted to say that so far we're talking about how AI benefits society, and the contrast of that we see right now, how AI is, you know, being taken advantage of for unfortunately for destructive purposes. Drones are driven by AI, and we see it happening right now. Well, you know, what's being done in Europe, Russia and Ukraine.
You know, Ian just posted something in the chat, and you should, would you please say it, Ian?
Yeah, I mean,
Pardon?
I've been, you know, I'm in touch with a lot of people in China, and China is a case where AI techniques have been applied on a very broad scale. And I would say that the net effects, you know, the effects on society have been rather negative. I mean, it's a very important part of the oppression of the people in Xinjiang. And in fact, the personal privacy of everybody in China has been affected by the use of facial recognition techniques and other AI techniques, which are used to correlate information. So I think there is a very strong potential for very negative effects of the broad application of these techniques. And I think we have to be aware of that. I mean, we have a prominent example right in front of us of what happens when these techniques are used without a lot of careful thought. And in terms of the business, I mean, some of us are old enough to remember the so-called AI winter, right?
Oh.
And so the AI winter was the result of a previous effort to promote the idea that AI would produce massive economic benefits. And really, you know, it was a very disappointing outcome, right? So it's not the first time that these kinds of promises have been made for the benefits of AI. Now, things are a bit different with neural networks, I would say, but I still have the sense that it's being oversold, not dissimilarly to the way that crypto is oversold as something, you know, in terms of the benefits, without talking about the risks. So I think we have to balance consideration of benefits and risks more thoughtfully than we have been doing. Right now, there's a kind of a rush, really like a money rush, because Microsoft is involved in a massive investment in this area, and investors in general are regarding this as a kind of a gold rush. Those to me are danger signs. They're not positives, right? And I think we've seen plenty of examples of getting carried away with certain technologies. So that's my thinking anyway.
May I counter one thing before we move on? I'm from China, so I want to just provide some color on how people think about the AI and the privacy. I totally agree with Ian that I think it's a violation of people's privacy. I don't like that. However, I would say vast majority of people inside China, like they do not realize it's an issue that the AI is violating or all the surveillance is violating their privacy. A lot of them actually feel it's very safe. Like the government is doing very well, you know, taking care of the, they feel good, you know. So,
Yeah, well, you know, I mean,
I just saying that that's how people inside China perceive that, you know, they feel it's a very convenient. I think it's a process for people to gradually realize that issue. For example, even in Europe, recently Europe issued a law about protecting people's data privacy, right? I think European is leading US. So eventually US will be very heavy on all the data privacy stuff in law, and the later may gradually go to all those developing countries. So I think there will be a process for people to gradually realize privacy has value and the government is violating my privacy. But right now I would say all the people inside China, most of them actually feel good. They don't.
Well, I could give you a few examples from some of my friends of how they have been affected by this. But you know, I don't want to get into it too much, but there are other voices in China. It's not the case that everybody is unaware. There are some people who have access to Western, you know, information sources. They are aware, and as we saw, there were significant protests that took place there not too long ago, which had a kind of a stunning effect on government policy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But those are minority in China. I would say vast majority of Chinese people, they don't have access to external world. They cannot even see YouTube. They are like a firewall barrier there. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Anyway, just to me, what happened in China is a kind of a warning for the rest of us, not to you know, quickly accept that introduction of certain technologies will be a net benefit to us. They may not. Self-driving cars are kind of a prominent example. I mean, I think that they have not made the kind of progress that people had expected, and there have been a number of, you know, difficult situations that arose, like, you know, people died as a result. Not that people don't die in regular car accidents, but you know, now Tesla and others are coming under a lot of questioning, and I think they're being, you know, investigated for the some of the damage caused by self-driving cars. So they may have been oversold as well, and that's another example of neural network technology, right? So we need to be I think we need to be a bit more cautious.
So many things are oversold. For example, the batteries in electric vehicles, they can easily catch fire in rainstorms, and they don't work in cold weather.
And you may know that in New York, there have been a number of deaths as a result of explosion of lithium batteries in scooters, et cetera, et cetera. So those things have hidden risks as well.
That's what makes me nervous about generative AI, because we open Pandora's box and we never think about the dystopian side. TJ has had his or her hand up for a while, so do you want to ask your question? You're muted.
Hey, thank you. Hey, it's Tommy. I'm a longtime SOS attendee. Oops. Hello? Okay. Oh, great. I'm on. Thanks for the talk. It's been great as usual. So I just had a comment on the healthcare applications. So I think with all technology, everybody needs to exercise responsibility, but you know, the context does matter. So each individual group or person needs to have some responsibility, and that's very complex to apply when technology moves so fast. And with regard to health, I do think it is important to keep the pressure on in New York City particularly, or in any major city. There are a lot of really smart people. There are a lot of people moving really fast. There's a lot of money, and it is very important to call out misuse, overuse, use that's too greedy. And I do agree with our presenter there. However, I do have to say that just even recently in my own family, there's an example of many doctors outside of the cities and inside of the cities who don't even follow, you know, what MD says, don't even consider it. There's malpractice, medical staff is overworked, when it's not outright negligence. And AI can really benefit the many people who are not being served at all. That said, yes, it's important on a policy level, and with any industry as you create markets to be on the paranoid side, because without that, nobody will be served at all well. But I do think some application of the AI as in partnership with humans is going to benefit the many people who are not served properly, and it's going to help act as a check on doctors who are abusing their privileges, or medical systems that are not organized in such a way that doctors can practice safely. So I just wanted to point out there's another side, and sort of it depends on who is and where the technology is applying, and it's extremely complicated and difficult. But yeah, so that's it.
Thank you for sharing.
All right.
So next question.
I think everyone here knows this, but what is the horrible scenario if you copy and paste a privacy policy? Like, what would then happen?
So, again, not a lawyer here, but I think it could be challenging where certain things, certain clauses maybe are going to be missing from there, or maybe worded incorrectly, where if indeed the data of the specific website or app is compromised or used incorrectly, then it's not mentioned in the privacy policy, and lawsuits can happen, things of that nature. So I personally think definitely, things like a privacy policy, terms of service, disclaimer. I mean, pay those few $100 or whatever it is to an attorney to go and get it done just for the peace of mind. And I think that's really, really important to go there and do. So I think to answer your question, again, my thought is that it's an unnecessary legal battle which somebody can get into if they do incorrectly.
Okay, thank you.
Ian brought up something in the chat earlier about misinformation when you're gathering information for research or whatever on the internet. And there's been so much disinformation, fake information, people getting kicked off Twitter, since we know, and other platforms, as we know from the Twitter files. And that skews results as well, and just propagates possibly propagates misinformation. Oh, you okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would just add that there are large vested interests that have a strong reason to promote misinformation. Well-funded interests, national governments in some cases, and we should not doubt that those governments will be making use of this kind of technology to maximize that output now, and switch from human teams. I mean, currently in Russia they use human teams to generate this kind of information. Now they will start to augment that with automated production, and that may not have very good results. We've seen the Meta lawsuit, the settlement recently, because of some activities that took place there, and we may see some similar activities in upcoming elections.
No, another thing I was actually thinking was, because this makes things so much quicker and easier to create content, irrelevant whether it's good content or bad content. There could be lots of challenges and problems where, like, almost imagine this, blogs can be created, tens of thousands of blogs can be created with different information, and that could almost like clog up the systems in a way, right? If you can go ahead and toll with that. But and that could be a really big challenge because then the real creative information may be pushed all the way down because of so much other AI generated information. And that's kind of scary as well, right? I'm almost and how do you solve such a problem too, right? Like, can you go ahead and say, oh, this information, this blog which is posted has been written by AI? We know nobody's going to go ahead and do such a thing, right? So that's a challenge, and I'm really hoping that the companies like Google, Bing, and all these other guys are trying to somehow account for this type of stuff.
Yeah, there are tools that have already become available which can fairly accurately detect material created by chatgpt. So some of these have been talked about recently on Hacker News and other forums. So it's not extremely difficult. It's not trivial, but I have a feeling that it'll become visibility, I think, is the answer. So as you suggest, and these tools are being developed. Some of the prototypes have been delivered and are showing some good results. And I think we'll see a lot more of that in the next year or so.
Yeah, post some of those links in the chat. In fact, I frequently cite articles in my newsletter, as some of you know, for your edification center. And I used to cite CNET. It was always one of my go-to sources, and I noticed that it had fallen off. And I'm like, sometimes when it would go completely down a rabbit hole. And then it was reported earlier this week that CNET has been using ChatGPT for quite some, or generative AI, for quite some time now instead of reporters. Like, I don't know how many people would have noticed that, but I did notice that something had changed.
Were they doing any editing, or was it just straight posting?
The articles were bizarre. I'm telling you, I like to quote articles too, and there would be phrases or sentences that were like, where the hell did this come from?
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know why that's even more scary? Because if a large outlet is using that, the average person is going to be using that even more so, because they have less to lose, right? As far as credibility and things of that nature. And that's, I don't know, that just it just basically means there's going to be much more AI generated content than we want to see. But that's just the reality of moving technology.
Arsen, what advice do you have for those who have ideas that involves AI and taking going through the process of ideation to fruition, and those who know nothing about or not much about startups, no experience, but have a good idea, great idea? What?
So are you referring to like an idea for a new startup using AI technology?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Well, I think there's a lot of people trying to go ahead and do that right now because it's a new thing, which is great, which is something definitely highly encouraged for people to go and get into. So how to go ahead and do it? Just basically like you have any other startup, right? How you do any other startup, you build it up with the right tools and from website and do an MVP and all that type of stuff. If you have ideas, my suggestion is like get onto it right away. Don't waste time, because we're all very, very early on. As we went ahead and all just spoke about, there's like at least 10 ideas we all just came up with, of innovative stuff, like going ahead, tools to go and detect plagiarism. There's so many different ideas which can come up with it. I think we also mentioned like a benchmarking type of tool, right? That would be really cool to go ahead and do. These are just startup ideas, like you do any other type of startup idea. You just gotta go with it. I'm sure Bonnie can help a lot out with the structure with that.
Yes, I'm sure that there's going to be examples of open AI type or regenerative AI companies in specific fields. So it's not just scraping random information from the internet, and there are subject matter experts behind it. there's an idea for some of you out there. Go for it.
Yep.
And the possibilities are endless. Oh, Ian said there are real benefits available from, Ian, you can say it.
Yeah, I just like a balanced attitude. I mean, obviously there are some significant benefits available, right? But if we just sort of assume that everything that comes out of this will be positive, I don't think that's reasonable. I think it doesn't, recent history does not show that.
Yes.
And we have to be aware of history. And it's
Especially
also the history of AI technology, which it's not a straight line upwards, right? It has to go in jumps and falls, right?
Well, it's like with any new technology coming out, like even cryptocurrency, right? The whole cause of it, the whole start of it is all blockchain. Blockchain is phenomenal. I'm a huge enthusiast with it, but cryptocurrency came out, and cryptocurrency is amazing too. But we see, in recent events that also has some negative effects as well. Some very big negative effects, but but this is just how technology works. And you're going to go and have really good coming out of things, and at the same time, not so good coming out of it. But that's just the world we live in, and it's our job. I believe it's our job as humans to go and take whatever we have in this world and make good out of it. That's really what it is. That's what our job is.
I agree. And as I said earlier, we don't seem to stop and consider the dystopian side. For example, when the age of social dawned, and there was Facebook and everybody else, and we're going to connect everybody in the world and everybody's going to get closer. And then it turned out to be a surveillance thing. They all turned out to be surveillance technologies. Though I knew that when I first saw it, but I was a conspiracy theorist. You'd have to look at the positive, negative side of it, the possible negative side of it. But to look at both sides. And yes, regulation is coming to crypto. We know that, and certainly as a certain event that happened rather recently is part of that. But then what happens when governments take over? That's a whole other can of worms. I don't mean to monopolize it. Anybody else have a question? A last question? Or some parting
I'll just say this.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll just say this was. Oh, go on. You have a question, Lenny?
Yeah, sorry. No. Are there? Are you considering creating an AI network, a WhatsApp group, or something like that out of this?
Is that a question for Bonnie or me?
For the organizers. Bonnie.
Oh, for me?
Bonnie.
No, I'm working on a book which I know that Microsoft has AI built into its Word program. And let me tell you, it is wrong 90% of the time. AI is not a creative writer. Generally, it is not a creative writer. Doesn't understand. And I'm on chapter 9. It's over 150 pages. It still hasn't learned. So I don't know how generative it is.
Lenny, I would just suggest you Google search AI groups. There's probably some WhatsApp groups or Slack groups or Discord groups, etc., that you can join.
All right. Thank you.
This was great today. Appreciate your time. Thank everyone for joining. It was
I just wanted to ask, will the video be available of this?
Yeah, for sure. I'll post the video, and Bonnie, you can send it out in the next newsletter, or we can send it out to everyone who registered. So we'll the video will be available on YouTube, and watch it again. I know I'll be watching it again.
Yeah, me
I'll also be posting some segments to LinkedIn over the next week or so, because there's some good nuggets here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Arsen. That was fantastic. And yes, I always do send the video out to all attendees. Thank you.
Right.
Arsen, I want to thank you so much. Any last words of advice or warning?
Yeah, I think really just to delve on something really important.
Yes.
AI is an amazing tool. It's an amazing technology, but it's at the end of the day, you got to remember it's a tool. It's a tool to help our lives be easier, get better, much more efficient. And just like with anything else, any new technology, you always have to use responsibility, and the whole concept of a copy and paste, even though it's so simple to go ahead and do, and we're all victims of going and using a copy and paste. We should really all be very, very careful when using, you know, ChatGPT or any other AI tool to go ahead and do it. I don't think that's what it's meant for, to go ahead and do. I think it's meant for helping you do the legwork, helping you be efficient, right? And doing, you know, a good majority of the work for you, but you still have to go ahead, you know, finish it off with your own brain, your own creativity. And I think that's just really important for all of us to understand, and anyone using AI to go ahead and do that.
That's a good point, but we're humans, and humans are always looking for the easy way out. How many diet pills are there?
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Well, thank you very much, Arsen. Our next breakfast is in 2 weeks, and Joseph Chan will be here. He had a sudden trip to Europe, for those of you who expected to see him today. And we want to thank Arsen so much for stepping up to the plate and addressing this very important and timely topic. Thank you so much, and thank you, Joseph, for hosting us.
Thank you.
Wishing
See
you all
everyone
a
soon.
wishing
Thank
you
you,
all a
everyone.
wonderful day.
Thank
And
you.
when the video is
Thank you.
available, you'll all get it, including you too, Arsen.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.